when it comes to the mainstream media bias and this orange man bad TDS stage 5, it's terminal. There's no recovering. It's terminal. It's CNN's Kaitlan Collins, which is really interesting because, Stephen, where did she go to school?
I'm not sure I remember, I don't think.
Really?
Yeah, she went to Alabama.
Roll Tide?
You need to get into her history because where did she get her start from?
I know.
You going to get into that? I haven't read through.
No, the Daily Caller.
See, Tucker found her.
I know.
And now look what CNN
Now look what she's doing. Completely betraying the people who even made it possible for her to be on TV, lying and gaslighting the American public. And just not even grateful for the opportunity at all. You have CNN's Kaitlan Collins, who started out at the Daily Caller, was hired by Tucker Carlson. She was writing for conservative media. And somewhere along the way, her brain melted. I think when you sign the contract with CNN, I think when she signed her contract, there's like a caveat in there that it's like, you must turn retarded. And she's like, yes, ma'am. Yep, there it is. Yep, I will. Oh, hold on, you're paying me how much? What is that? Okay, yes, I'll turn retarded. I just signed on the dotted line. So clearly it is her life's mission now to just make Donald Trump look bad. And she thinks, because she's not as bright as she thinks she is, she thinks that she's getting somewhere and she's like, I got him. I got him on this. How's he ever going to recover? But unfortunately for her, as I mentioned, not as bright as she thinks she is, and never the brightest one in the room. She got called out on all of her bullshit yesterday by Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. Here was that.
Is it the position of this administration that the press should not prominently cover the deaths of U.S. service members?
No, it's the position of this administration that the press in this room and the press across the country should accurately report on the success of Operation Epic Fury. So we can all be very grateful that we have an administration and that we have men and women in our armed forces who are willing to sacrifice their own lives for the rest of us in this room and for every American across the country and for every troop that is based in the Middle East. That's what these...
Hexeth was complaining that it was front page news about these 6 service members who were killed.
That's not what the secretary said, Caitlin, and that's not what the secretary meant, and you know it. You know you are being disingenuous. There is not, we've never had a secretary of defense who cares more.
Drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it, the press only wants to make the president look bad. Yeah, as you know, we cover the deaths of U.S. service members under every president.
The press does only want to make the president look bad. That's a fact, especially you. No, listen to me. Especially you and especially CNN. We expect you to cover that as you should. We expect you to cover that as you should, Caitlin. But you and your network know that you take every single thing this administration says and tries to use it to make the president look bad. That is an objectable fact.
I don't think covering troop deaths is trying to make
if you're trying to argue right now that CNN's overwhelming coverage is not negative of President Donald Trump, I think the American people would tend to agree, and your ratings would tend to disagree with that as well.
There's no disputing that. The American people don't want to hear from CNN because we all know this is, of course, the agenda. This is the playbook. It's the only playbook that they have. I could list a million examples of this, but let me give you this one, okay? You recall, not so long ago, Kaitlan Collins tried to bait President Trump into saying something mean about Joe Biden after he was diagnosed with cancer. And she was like, doing her best, I guess. But then she raised some questions about the timeline. Again, she really thinks she's in all of these gotcha moments, I think. She thinks she's the brightest one in the room. Here's that.
Do you want to respond to President Biden being diagnosed with cancer? Are you going to call your predecessor?
I think it's very sad, actually. I'm surprised that it wasn't, the public wasn't notified a long time ago, because to get to stage 9, that's a long time. I just had my physical. You saw that. You saw the results of that particular test. I think that test is standard to pretty much anybody getting a physical. I think people should try and find out what happened, because I'll tell you, I don't know if it had anything to do with the hospital. Walter Reed is really good. They're some of the best doctors I've ever seen. I don't even know if they were involved, but a doctor was involved in each case. Maybe it was the same doctor, and somebody is not telling the facts. That's a big problem.
Now, I should note there is no stage 9 for cancer. There is the Gleason score, which is a scale used to measure prostate cancers for their aggressiveness on a scale of 6 to 10. President Biden's cancer is at a Gleason score of 9, according to the statement his office put out yesterday.
Ooh, you got him. As everyone knows, there is no stage 9 when it comes to cancer. Also, he is at 9 on the Gleason scale. Like, obviously, that's what he meant. Okay, obviously, like Joe Biden can't even form coherent sentences. He doesn't know what state he's in. He didn't even know that he was like president of the United States, probably. Actually, he didn't, because he kept calling Kamala. He was like, President Kamala Harris. And really, you're going to nitpick about President Trump saying stage 9 when we all know what he meant? Give me a break. Now, I try not to physical shame, but it's just, it's the smugness for me. It's the smugness for me. Yeah, it's just the smugness for me that really just rubs me the wrong way. She just walks around looking like she just smelled shit. Am I wrong, Steven? Like she just has a constant, like someone farted face.
Yeah, it's the eyebrow.
It's the eyebrows. It is. It's the eyebrows. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if like she just, you know, how your mom says, like, don't make a face or it's going to stick that way. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. But it's just the smugness in the face for me. I want to just, let me give you just another example here. Okay. Kaitlan Collins, again, now with JD Vance thinking, I've got him. I'm smarter than him. And I've got him. I've got JD Vance.
You can police people for violating the law, and we have seen some of that with some of these protests.
Okay, so you agree that people who break in and vandalize a building should be prosecuted?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm just checking because you did help raise money for people who did so on January 6th, which was, you know, impeding an official proceeding, breaking into a building that they weren't allowed to be in, and vandalizing the Capitol.
Well, Kaitlan, I know that this is the obsession of the national media to talk about what happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago on January 6th.
It's not an obsession, I'm just seeing if it's a double standard.
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. You got him. You got him, Kaitlan. You got him. How about Kamala Harris raising funds to bail out all of these Black Lives Matter protesters? Care to comment on that? No? Oh, you got him, Kaitlan. Wow. What a heroic act of journalism there. What a heroic act of journalism. And she still tells you she's not biased. What are you talking about? Kaitlan Collins is never biased.
You know, they always argue the media is biased against them and doesn't cover them fairly, even though we cover them, I think, fairly and accurately. You want the focus to be on the subject matter and not on you personally as a reporter. And so I always try to, you know, keep that distance in terms of that. And I think keeping your composure in that point is important because you never want to prove them right on that front, that they are right, that you're biased against them or that you have a personal, you know, angst here. I don't.
Now, I will say, I mean, I wouldn't hold it against her if she just like had a chip on her shoulder about Donald Trump, because he has been largely successful at trolling her over the years. I think maybe we're figuring out what exactly Kaitlan Collins' problem is. Watch.
Yeah, what did you say?
What would you say to the survivors who feel like they haven't gotten justice?
You are the worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. You know, she's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile on your face.
I'm asking you about survivors.
You know why? You know why you're not smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth. And you're a very dishonest organization, and they should be ashamed of you. And this should have been done by Biden years ago. This should have never been allowed to happen. I know he's a friend of yours.
But couldn't Putin just withdraw his?
He's a friend of
today?
CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore, because they have no credibility. Okay, who else? Yes, please.
Why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them?
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple you're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
Mr. President, you won the White House in part because of high inflation. If your tariffs make prices go up...
Excuse me, we haven't asked you to speak yet, please.
You said that your national security advisor learned a lesson after a reporter.
Excuse me, I didn't make you. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President,
So good. It's so good. This is the Trump that we need. Listen, this is what I'm asking President Trump. President Trump, that energy needs to go into setting your own people back in place, like John Thune, John Cornyn, these rhinos. You're so good at this stuff. Just humiliate the right people. You can do it to Kaitlan Collins. If these Republicans fall out of line, you need to get them back in line. Just relentlessly mock and shame them. It works so well. Clearly it's worked for Kaitlan. She's broken because of it. That's all I'm saying. Anywho, apparently, if you don't like war. Now, didn't hear the same energy as Kaitlan mentions. President Trump is talking about the Ukraine-Russia war. I don't think it mattered to them that Americans were not for that either, because it was literally none of it was in our best interest. At least with Iran, you can say, okay, they actually hate us and they are trying to destroy Western civilization. This is very, very clear. It's not just the Jews that they hate. It's also us. They chant death to America in the streets for a reason. You could at least argue that point. And I'm not for war, but you could at least argue that point in this particular situation. Russia and Ukraine war, we didn't like that either. I didn't hear anyone covering it like that. New York Times. Make sure to share the show. Make sure to smash the like button, subscribe, and comment. It'll help us in the algorithm, which we all know is stacked against us. If you like this clip and you want to see the full episode, click here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, come on, you know you do. Click here.